Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
Hi, I'm Terry Sullivan and welcome to this week's Sticks radio show here on Seclo Sounds. My guest today is a local man, Buckinghamshire boy, Colin Edmonds. He's a scriptwriter. He's written 1,500 scripts for television, including working with Des O'Connor and Des and Mel, and also for many years was chief gag writer for Bob Monkhouse, and also wrote episodes of Bless His House and Love Thy Neighbour. He's now a published author. He has a new book out called Steam, Smoke and Mirrors. We were talking to him after this. I couldn't resist playing this from Erasure's Velvet Flame album. This is Smoke and Mirrors.
Suddenly remember what we were dreaming of, another time, a life ago. Held off your ambition, put your faith in me, how could you know? Whoa. I was plotting me first, saw you self-destruct, my every wish was your command, and you believed that I believed in miracles, you'd make it work. Whoa. How could I be so cruel to leave you without? I pushed you aside and you learned to shout loud, and I was living my life, couldn't see nobody but me. And I apologize to you now, but sorry won't be heard or make amends. I'd give my all to hold you once again.
Today on the show, well, I've been looking forward to this for a while. I've got the gentleman called Colin Edmonds. He's just written a brand new book, and, well, many of you may not know him, but he was the man, well, he was the head writer for Bob Monkhouse, among others. I think he wrote for nearly every comic in the country at one time, but I'll ask Colin to tell us all about his exploits. Good morning, Colin.
Good morning, Tel. How you doing, sir?
I'm really, really good. I'm really good. And you're the other great thing is you're a local boy without giving too much away. You're a Buckinghamshire resident
yeah,
now.
I live in Buckinghamshire. I'm down in the Chalfonts.
In the slums.
Well, oddly enough, someone said to me ages ago, because we've been down here for about 25 years, someone said, did you move to the Chalfonts purely for comedic reasons? Mindful of the fact that Chalfont St Giles is a well-known rhyming slang.
Yes. But I think it's always been well known for that sort of thing. And that sort of area, I think it's very Midsummer Murderish as well, isn't it?
It is. They shoot a lot of that stuff
shot
around
not
here.
far from you. I do know where they shoot it. I've been over there and seen them shooting. Actually, I drove round one day. It was a little bit not far from you, and suddenly went round the corner and there was all this film crew. I wonder what the hell was going on, but never mind. Let's not talk about Midsummer Murders. Let's talk about this new book you've got, or your first book, isn't it?
Yeah, my first book. I've been writing, Terry, for what am I? I just turned 60.
Okay.
And yeah, I know. I can't believe it myself. The old bugger's just turned 60. Look, I look it. I got to look in the mirror and I think, I'm turning into my dad. But I don't feel it. I still feel as if I'm a 21-year-old writer starting out in the business. I've still got that kind of youthful enthusiasm and verve and excitement about writing. And I've been writing for 40-odd years. But suddenly, I got the chance to write this novel. And it's got to be one of the most exciting things I've ever done.
How long did it take you to write the novel? Once you sat down to it?
Well, it's a strange thing, because when you write comedy as I used to write it, and I'll tell you about used to a bit later on, if I may.
Yeah, we'll go back to that.
You become very disciplined. You become disciplined in your writing. And I've spent my entire life looking at the QWERTY keyboard. That typewriter keyboard, and then it became the electric typewriter keyboard, and then it became the word processor. But I've spent my entire life staring down at those keys and tapping stuff out on it. And when, as I like to describe it, the wheels sort of fell off my comedy career, because, you get to a certain age and you're out of step with comedy. Comedy moves on. You can't quite keep up with it. And the new wave of performers coming through, Terry, they don't need writers because they write their own material. And I found myself being slightly left behind. The carnival was moving on. I was by the wayside saying, hello, wait for me. And, of course, they weren't looking back or waiting for me. And I thought, well, I've been writing all this time. Why don't I try different writing discipline? And that's when I turned to this novel, which is called Steam, Smoke and Mirrors. And I can bore you with telling you what it's about if you're interested.
Please, please. I'd love to hear what it's all about.
It started life originally. What do I know about? They do say, Terry, when you're a writer, you've got to write about what you know about, especially when you're doing your first novel. And what do I know about? Well, I know about comedians, and I kind of know how they tick, I think. I wouldn't flatter myself with being an expert on comedy or comedians, but I've been in the business a while, and I kind of know how it ticks. And I've always been interested in detective dramas and detective novels. You mentioned Midsummer Murders. And I thought, it's a great idea. Why don't I have a detective who's a comedian? It's got to be a great idea, hasn't it? My detective will be a comic. So when he's on stage killing the audience, and when he's off stage, he's finding out who did the murders in real life. If he's not cracking gags, he's cracking cases. This is great. And I sat down and thought about it. That's terrible. Absolutely awful idea. So, okay, what do I know about now? Well, I had worked with Paul Daniels, another local fellow to you.
Yeah, I know Paul, actually.
And I'd done a couple of series with Paul, mostly game shows, but I'd done one magic series with him. A show called Secrets, oddly enough. And I thought, why don't I do... Why isn't my detective a magician? Oh, yes, suddenly I'm onto something now. Now, at the same time, being interested in history and the Victorian era, I thought, why don't I make my magician a music hall magician and suddenly anchor it in the Victorian era, and suddenly it becomes a little more mysterious, a little more dark, murky, with mist swirling. The Ripper murders had happened 10 years ago, so it's all very mysterious still. And I thought, my other main interest in life is a thing called steampunk. And why don't I combine steampunk with a Victorian-era magician solving mysteries? And then suddenly I knew... Terry, when you get a good idea, what you think is a good idea, the gun goes off in your head. You think, that's what happened then with Steam, Smoke and Mirrors. And suddenly I had my tarot card laid out in the correct order in front of me. And I thought, yeah, that's what I'm going to write my novel about. And that's pretty much how it came about.
Okay, can you explain to people what steampunk is? Because some people won't understand what steampunk is.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. Most people don't. But
I know, because I've got it written down in front of me.
if you can imagine the novels, the Victorian novels of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, Jules Verne had nuclear submarines going under the sea in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And H.G. Wells had time machines, the novel of that name. And steampunk is the future as a Victorian would have seen it. So as a consequence, say, Charles Babbage, who invented the first computer in something like 1840-something, built this huge thing. It was half the size of a room. It was all cogs and cranks and camshafts and stuff, and he would input certain information and numbers, and a few of the cogs would turn and give him an answer. But of course, it was a very laborious process because no one had invented electricity to drive this damn thing. So, wouldn't it be a good idea if Charles Babbage connected his first computer to a steam generator, and steam made this computer work? So basically, you've got steam driving an awful lot of inventions and industrial... the Victorian era was full of inventions. It was... you've only got to look at the architecture as you wander around wherever we're living, Terry. You know, you see the Victorian buildings and they're beautiful.
It must have been a very exciting times because everything was new.
Absolutely.
Probably dirty, but everything was new.
Yeah, it was all covered in soot and grime, as are all the steampunk inventions, because they're all steam-driven and smokestacks pumping out stuff. But as I said, steampunk is Victorian-era science fiction. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Because it was sort of, there was the movie Hugo recently, and then also there was the guy who did, was it Kim Gavin did the Paralympic Games in London, the closing ceremony?
That's the finest example.
I saw that. I actually, one of my relatives was actually there. She was taking part, and I sat and watched it all the way through, and it was different, wasn't it?
It's lovely. What it is, Terry, it's very creative. The steampunk community are a very passionate community. They're very, very creative. They're wonderful artists, very, very clever designers, and terrific engineers. If you and your listeners Google steampunk and go to images, then what you see on that postage stamp size page of images that you get on Google Images, if you've typed up steampunk, oh my goodness me, it's dazzling. The costumes, the equipment, the instruments, the inventions, it's so clever. All steam-driven with cogs and cranks, and I'm very passionate about that subject. And when I had the idea of imposing a steampunk kind of universe on my Victorian magician, the book then suddenly became a joy to write.
And it didn't take you long to get... Well, I imagine once you... I mean, I'm a writer, but not of novels. I do magazines and things like this. And I guess once you get the framework, it then is like putting the flesh on the bones. Would that be the description? Or am I...
Certainly.
Got it wrong, okay.
Once you've got your two characters, my main character is a youthful American magician who's come over from the US, worked in British music hall for 10 years. He's now in his late 20s, and he has on stage he has a magician's assistant called Phoebe, and when they're not on stage performing their magic, they're helping the Scotland Yard Special Branch to solve mysterious X-Files type crimes in the Victorian era.
And the lead character is Michael Magister?
My magician is called Michael Magister, and his assistant is called Phoebe Le Breton. And what I found with working with our mutual friend Paul Daniels was, if you look at Paul and any magician, Terry, and they're assured, they're confident, they're in the middle of the stage, they're gesturing and they're waving their arms and stuff's happening. But the person who does all the hard work is the magician's assistant, because she's the person who's getting into those cramped boxes. She's doing all the magic work behind the scenes. She's suddenly not in the box. suddenly she's in the basket and avoiding swords that are being thrust into the sword. She's doing all the damn work, and I thought, maybe that's the angle with this book.